wherever I woke up, it wasn't Japan. Okay, that title is a bit misleading. The place I woke up in resembles Japan, but wherever it is, it's definitely not Japan. So I'm a lurker by default, and this is my first post. I'm kind of freaking out. Please bear with me as I work through it with this post. Everything is a mess. I've been in Japan for a few months now, and I'd like to think I've gotten pretty used to the culture and daily life. I wish I could chalk what is happening up to some sort of bizarre culture shock, but no matter how I look at it, that just can't be the case. Today started completely normal. I woke up early, took the train, went to class, came home. I have a second class later in the evening, and normally I just wait on campus until then, but I was beyond tired, so I decided to head back to my dorm for a nap. I got there safely, set an alarm, and fell asleep to some mindless YouTube video. I really only napped for a small amount of time, but I woke up feeling utterly drained, even more tired than I was before. I seriously felt like I couldn't move my limbs for a solid 5 minutes, essentially like my body refused to respond to anything I wanted it to do. When I finally managed to get my fingers to grab onto my phone, my eyes creaked open almost painfully. Sometimes naps are a bad idea. I wanted to make sure I would make it to class on time, and I checked the train times on my phone through Google Maps, like I usually do, but nothing came up. My station has only one line coming from the suburban area I live into the city, and it just wasn't there. I refreshed over and over, but it never showed up. The only options it gave me were to walk for 2 hours into the city, or take an oddly winding and confusing bus path full of transfers that would have taken twice the normal time the train does. I was kind of starting to freak out because it made me think the train line had been suspended because of an accident, and I was never going to make it to class on time. Which in truth didn't really make sense. If it had been delayed or suspended, it still would have shown up on the map and given me a small reason for the delay. But I wasn't focused on that. Sometimes naps are a really, really bad idea. Regardless, I decided to get ready and head to the station. I could ask the attendants there, and if it was actually suspended, I could get some sort of proof for why I would be over an hour late to class. I refreshed my email to see if I had any new messages, and that's when another weird thing happened. None of my email accounts would connect. All of them said there was an error reaching the account. I swapped internet, used my data, tried logging out and back in, absolutely no luck. I'm starting to get kind of unsettled at this point, mostly because I think there's some sort of interference with the internet, a solar flare or an electronic attack, which is absolutely terrifying for someone like me. No internet means no reading material for the train ride, if I ever got to actually take it. Already worried about being late, I just kind of left my dorm with that uneasy feeling in my stomach you may be familiar with. Maybe not. It just felt like someone had come into my life and twisted everything 25 degrees to the right, but left it all in their regular positions. I felt that way walking down the hallway of my dorm. It was completely abandoned, and there were absolutely no noises. I didn't run into anyone in the hallway. Not even my dorm mother was there to see me off as I left. It was weird because when I had come back, I ran into multiple people in the hallway, so I knew a good chunk of people living there had to be home. However, when I got to the area where we turn our name plaques to signify we are out, I saw everybody's was turned. That means while I was asleep, literally everyone had left the dorm. Even the staff, it seemed. My heart was really pumping at this point, but I'm no detective. I just put my shoes on and left. I can't even describe what I saw other than how I said it before. Everything was the same, but it just wasn't. I was getting really dizzy at the sight of my typical neighborhood looking exactly the same, but feeling so alien. It was as if I had never been there before. There was only one person ahead of me on the street, and she was walking towards me. My head was still down, looking at my phone, trying to figure out the whole train situation. But I almost shit my pants when I saw her shoes walk by me. She had whispered something to me, loudly, as she walked by. Like, dead in my ear, whispered a long sentence, then kept walking without looking back at me. Now, I know Japanese, but I was so frazzled by everything happening, and it was so quick I wasn't able to catch what she said. I almost called out to her, but she just walked away quickly, clearly exercising by pumping her arms, and I was just speechless. If I were back in America, this really wouldn't have bothered me, but people tend to mind their own business here, and I don't run into the amount of weirdos here as I did anywhere else. But it didn't stop there. When I got on the main road, I saw more people, yet only a mother and her son were walking close to me. The mother looked back, made eye contact with me, and told her son to run. They straight up just sprinted away from me, running up the street and disappearing from my line of sight like I was carrying the plague. I was so confused. Even more at this point, because I get second glances for being a blonde foreigner constantly, but never something like this. No one had ever actively avoided me for who I was. In fact, it was usually the opposite, and my heart was pounding wildly to the point where I could hear it. I tried to keep my head down and make it to the train station as fast as I could, because the more I looked around at stuff, the dizzier I kept getting. Once I made it to the train station, I was struck by how empty it was. It was only the evening. There was no reason for it to be so abandoned. I walked up to my platform and unsurprisingly found it empty as well, aside from a station attendant. I managed to walk up to him and ask when the next train would be coming. He just gave me the blankest stare I have ever seen and said, "The train won't be coming again." The last train normally runs at 5 past midnight, so what the hell? I figured I should just give up on class at that point, and I couldn't even email my professor and attempt to explain because my emails weren't working still. I just went back to my dorm and tried to listen to music, but even that is weird. Every song I listen to sounds 2 beats faster than it normally does, enough for me to know it's wrong, but not enough for it to be obvious. The worst part about all of this is that I'm forgetting. I had entirely forgotten about the email thing until I started writing this out. I knew something else had gone wrong, but I couldn't remember. I couldn't remember at all. Like, I forgot a word in the middle of a conversation. I had to sit and think for over 15 minutes. The only thing keeping me going was my sheer will and hatred of that feeling until the memory popped back into my head. I'm terrified I'm going to forget everything and slip into this weird, different reality when I just know something is wrong. I can't tell anyone about this because they'll think I'm crazy. Besides, I'm not even sure. Maybe I'm sick. Maybe something happened to me when I was asleep. So I'm posting this here. I need your guys' help with this, since I know this is one of the only places where I'll be taken seriously. The only option I can consider is that something happened in my reality and I ended up somewhere I shouldn't have. I'm not sure if this will post in my previous reality or the one I'm in now, but I do have a point of reference. Where I'm from, there was an earthquake in Japan today. It was nowhere near where I live, but I'm wondering if maybe there was another, and it hit where I live while I was asleep. Maybe I'm dead. Either way, if you don't mind, can you let me know what's going on in Japan in your dimension?